The story of Esther, the brave queen who saved her people. In a faraway land called Persia, there lived a young Jewish girl named Esther. She was kind, gentle, and beautiful, but her true beauty was in her heart. This is a story about courage, faith, and how God can use anyone, even a quiet girl, to change history and save lives. Let's step back in time to discover how a queen's bravery saved an entire nation. King Xerxes, the ruler of Persia, wanted a new queen. He invited the most beautiful young women in the land to his palace, and among them was Esther, the orphan Jewish girl raised by her cousin Mordecai. Esther didn't tell anyone she was a Jew, as Mordecai advised her to keep it secret. When the king saw her, he was pleased and he made Esther his queen. But being queen wasn't just about wearing a crown. Soon, Esther would face a choice that could risk her life, or save her people. In the king's court was a man named Haman. He was proud and powerful, but also cruel. Haman hated the Jews, especially Mordecai, because Mordecai refused to bow down to him. Haman became so angry that he made a plan to destroy all the Jews in Persia. He tricked King Xerxes into signing a law that would allow this to happen. The law could not be changed. It was sealed with the king's ring. The day was set the Jews would be destroyed. When Mordecai heard about the law, he tore his clothes and wept bitterly. He sent a message to Queen Esther. "You must go to the king and beg him to save our people." But Esther was afraid. No one could go to the king without being called, not even the queen. If she entered the throne room uninvited, she could be killed, unless the king held out his golden scepter. Mordecai replied, "Maybe you became queen for such a time as this." Esther knew what she had to do. She told Mordecai, "Fast and pray for 3 days. I will do the same. Then I will go to the king. And if I perish, I perish." After 3 days, Esther put on her royal robes and entered the king's court. The room grew silent. Would the king be angry? Then, the king held out his golden scepter. Esther was safe. The king asked her what she wanted. She said, "Please come to a banquet I have prepared for you and Haman." The next day, at the banquet, the king asked again, "What is your request?" Esther replied, "Please come to another banquet tomorrow. Then I will tell you." That night, the king couldn't sleep. He asked for the royal records to be read to him. In those records, he found the story of how Mordecai had once saved his life by warning of an assassination plot. The next morning, the king honored Mordecai publicly. This shocked Haman, who had come to ask for Mordecai to be killed. Later, at Esther's second banquet, the king asked once more, "What is your request, Queen Esther?" With courage, Esther said, "My king, my life and the lives of my people are in danger. We are to be destroyed." The king was shocked. Who would dare do such a thing? Esther pointed and said, "The enemy is Haman." The king was furious. Haman was arrested, and the very gallows he built for Mordecai were used for his own punishment. Although the old law could not be undone, the king made a new law. The Jews could now defend themselves. On the day of the attack, the Jews were ready and they were saved. Esther's bravery had changed everything. To remember this miracle, the Jewish people celebrated a new holiday called Purim, a time of joy and thanksgiving. Lightbulb moral lessons from Esther's story. Courage can change the world. Esther risked her life to do what was right. God puts people in the right place at the right time. Even when we feel small, God can use us for great things. Prayer and fasting prepare us for difficult decisions. Standing up for others is always worth it. Blue Book closing message. Esther was just one girl. She didn't have power or position when her story began. But she had a heart of faith and a spirit of bravery. And when the moment came, she said yes to God's purpose. We all have moments when we can make a difference at home, in school, or in our community. Like Esther, let us stand for what is right, even when it's hard. You never know, maybe you were made for such a time as this.
Jesus feeds the 5,000. Jesus went to the other side of the Sea of Galilee. and a large crowd followed him because they saw the signs he had performed by healing the sick. When Jesus saw the great crowd, he asked Philip, "Where shall we buy bread for these people to eat?" He asked this only to test him, for he already had in mind what he was going to do. Philip answered him, "It would take more than half a year's wages to buy enough bread for each one to have a bite." Another of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up, "Here is a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish, but how far will they go among so many?" Jesus said, "Have the people sit down." There was plenty of grass, and about 5,000 men were seated. Jesus took the loaves, gave thanks, and distributed them to those who were seated as much as they wanted. He did the same with the fish. When they had all had enough to eat, Jesus said to his disciples, "Gather the pieces that are left over. Let nothing be wasted." So they gathered them and filled 12 baskets with the pieces of the 5 barley loaves left over by those who had eaten. After the people saw the sign Jesus performed, they began to say, "Surely this is the prophet who is to come into the world." This miracle reveals Jesus as the provider and reminds us of the importance of faith and gratitude in receiving God's provision.